All right, howdy, folks. So, big game coming up. For those of you watching on YouTube, I will be doing interactive chat on Twitch. So if you want to come over to Twitch, Third Floor Wars, we can talk there. But I wanted to talk. Hey, Dice Man, I wanted to talk about my ideas. So the first thing you need to know is Jim, who I'm not playing against. Hey, Dwarf. Jim, who I'm playing against, has promised not to watch this. So I can be very candid about my tactics and things like that. So a little bit of background. The patrons, I set I think it was $300 a month level. Almost as a joke, I said offhandedly on a live stream that if they got up to $300 a month, that I would play Arcanist on a live stream. And in a matter of, I think, a week, the patrons, because they're awesome, did exactly that and got me up there. And before we could even schedule it, we went to COVID. So that happened back in the spring. We then tested out some protocols here on the third floor to see if we could do a live stream here and feel comfortable about it with a lot of Purell and masks and things like that. We did that, so we're feel comfortable to do it again. So Sunday, we've got a game between me playing Karis and my good buddy Jim, who's playing Seamus. Now, normally he is an Arcanist, and normally, of course, I'm a Reser. So we reached out to Cody Hyatt, and I asked Cody to put together a pool for us. So you can see the pool that he made for us, which I thought was a very interesting pool. It's a corner deployment, and we've got corrupted ley lines, leave your mark, catch and release, spread them out, and research mission. So, here's a deep little secret. I have yet to play a Gaining Grounds 1. So this will be my first time playing Corrupted Ley Lines. This will be my first time playing any of these schemes. So that's a tricky little piece for me to have to deal with. So for those of you that listen to the podcast, you know, the advice I always give is, make sure you play a crew that you're familiar with. Be sure that you're familiar with the strats and schemes. I am breaking all those rules and top it off with the fact that, generally speaking, I lose whenever I play this game. So Sunday will be interesting. Virgin, big time. So why did I pick Karis? I originally was thinking, when I saw this, I was originally thinking Colette. I think Colette and Sandeep are the two strongest masters that the Arcanists have. I think that Colette, it was actually pretty good into this pool. The problem with Colette is, one, I think she's a medium to high skill master. And for me playing her for the first time ever, I guaranteed I was not going to be a medium or high skill player. So I decided not to go for Colette. I then leaned towards Karis, talked to my good friend Jeremy Peace, and thought what did he think about Karis as far as skill cap is concerned. And he said that she's relatively straightforward. Where she can get difficult is if you get very deep into the burning synergies of her. So what Jeremy built for me, and he built this list, is he built for me essentially a Karis list with a bunch of all-stars. So you'll see, really, I've only got Carlos and Borgman in keyword, and then he went Captain, Mech Rider, Soulstone Miner. And Captain is kind of an anti-Seamus pick. And it's a pretty good list. I'm excited about this list. And I think that even the fact that I am new to playing Karis, that I hopefully will make a total embarrassment of myself. So I'd be curious to know in the chat, because I'm going to talk about it here in a bit. What do you guys think I chose for my schemes? So Jim and I had to submit our schemes ahead of time to Ray, because we then do a pre-recording where we talk about schemes and our choices that'll be playing before we go live. So we pick it way beforehand. We also pick board sides beforehand, so I'll be playing on the bottom here. So if you look at the bottom of the map that I've got showing in the window there, I am going to be playing on that side. So either I'm going to pick the lower right-hand corner or the lower left-hand corner. But I'd be curious to know which schemes you think I was going to pick. I've talked to a few people about it. And not bad, Dwarf. Not bad at all. Assassinate has been a popular one, which I see. I realize I don't have it on the list here. I left it off the list there. So Assassinate was one of them. But what I've heard the most is the research mission with Karis and her ability to drop markers. A couple reasons I didn't go with research mission. I was not crazy about the not complicated it was, but there's several things that need to happen for research mission to go. And I think that if I was more familiar with gaining grounds, if I was more familiar with my master and my crew, I think research mission is a good choice here. I have a sneaking suspicion looking at Jim's list that he is going to go research mission. So I need to be ready to handle that and to deal with that. What I ended up going with, well, first, let me talk to you about my philosophy. Yeah, I agree, Dwarf. It's definitely AP intensive. So here's my thought. With Karis, I'm going to want to do two things with this list. One, I want to control the center of this board. That helps me with corrupted ley lines, and it helps me with Karis. I can pyre marker the crap out of the middle of this board, and if I can control the center of this board, I like my chances. So my thoughts are, I want to get Karis in a position where she's controlling the center of the board. I want her backed up by the captain, which hopefully will dissuade Jim from putting Seamus into her by having the captain there. And then I'll probably keep Borgman towards the center as well to heal up the captain and heal up Karis as need be. Knowing that I'm going to control that center, and that's a win condition for me, I felt like Leave Your Mark was a smart move. I'm going to be there anyway. And if I'm going to be controlling the center, and if I'm going to have pyre markers in the center, hopefully he won't be there, which makes Leave Your Mark a little bit easier for me. So I'm a huge fan of deciding what my game state, my table state needs to be for me to control the board, and then figure out whether I've got schemes that are going to fit that, right? So that's what I did here. I knew that I wanted Karis in the center of the board. That's where I want her to be. I want her to control the middle of the board, which helps me with ley lines. So let's pick a scheme that I'm going to be there anyway. So that's Leave Your Mark. With her pick-up trigger on her attack, let me see if I can go over there. If you Up We Go. On Up We Go, that helps me a lot too with Leave Your Mark. Because I can keep that, hopefully, help keep that center cleared out. The captain's going to serve two things for me. One, hopefully dissuade projectile shooting at Karis or at the captain or Borgman, right? So hopefully that's going to make Seamus have a hard time for target priority. The water is going to count as difficult terrain. Lost my train of thought. Borgman and captain and Karis. Hopefully that's going to make Seamus go, you know what? I do not even want to get involved there, because his chances of one or two shotting any of those models off the board, if they're close to each other, are slim. And if he does peekaboo Seamus, which I think he's probably going to do, if he doesn't get out of there, I have a sneaking suspicion that I can counterattack. So that's what's nice about the captain, is the captain could go in there and can just, counterattack anything. He punches hard. So that's the idea behind Leave Your Mark. My next one is Spread Them Out. And I picked Spread Them Out for the exact same reason that I picked Leave Your Mark, because my models are going to be there anyway. I plan on having the Mech Rider, the Soulstone Miners, and Carlos not near the center, right? So they're going to be the ones that are going to help me interact with the other ley line markers. They're also going to be dissuading the Seamus crew from being in the center. If they're already going to be out there, they're both of them are very resilient models. I've got diesel engine on the Mech Rider. Then Spread Them Out makes sense to me. I mean, and honestly, Mech Rider can do Spread Them Out by himself. Other added benefit, Jim, I think, will be anticipating research mission. which will throw off some of the ski marker drops I'm doing. I don't know. I like my chances. I like my chances overall. It'll be interesting to see if I've overthought this, because quite frankly, when you've had this much time to think about it, overthinking it is a likely scenario. So let's talk about deployment. I don't know if I'm going to be able to pick deployment or not. The only thing that's set, because of how we set up the pre-production, we have to know who's going to be on which side of the board because we have overlays and stuff like that. I've already committed that I'm going to be on the bottom half of this board that you see on the screen. So that means I'm either going to end up in the right-hand corner or the left-hand corner. And I've been trying to think where I'd rather be. Again, think about one of the things I want to do is I want to get in the middle. Right, so I want to control the middle. Honestly, I think both bottom left and bottom right corners look pretty good as far as path to the middle. So that I'm not worried about. The next thing I want to think about is my second marker. So the first marker is obvious. That's the first ley line marker I'm going to get is right outside of my deployment zone. What is easier for me to get to for my second marker? I don't know if my second marker will be the middle, but it could be easily, because I'm going to try to control the middle. But let's think about whether I'd want to get one of the left or the right ones, right? I think of the two markers that are in the upper right and upper left-hand corner, I think the easiest one to get to, believe it or not, is the top left one. The reason being is that from the bottom of the board, I've only got the water to deal with as far as difficult terrain. And remember, my flight and stuff like that's not going to matter because it's a lodestone and I can't place. And if you look just to the south, or just below the top right-hand marker, you have that huge tree patch there. And if you really can't really tell in this picture, but there's a marker, a neoprene mat that's under those three trees that's in the upper right hand and upper left hand or bottom left hand corners. That's all going to be dense. That's all going to be difficult terrain. So I would rather deal with just a little bit of difficult terrain by crossing the river than I would dealing with the entire forest or having to go around the entire forest. So I'm hoping bottom left, which I don't think is completely obvious, and it might be a terrible choice on my part. We'll have to see whether that's the case or not. So that's where we are. We know my skiing picks. I'm going with spread them out. I'm going with leave your mark. And then I'm also going with hoping to get that bottom left-hand corner. Win condition for me is I want to be controlling the center, and I want Carlos, the Mech Rider, and the Soulstone Miner threatening the other three auxiliary markers. Let's take a quick look at the chat, because I've been running my mouth. I haven't had a chance to look. Yeah, Cody, I agree that you might be right, Cody. Me picking, Cody wrote that that lower left-hand corner is rough. And Cody, you could be right, and me wanting to be there could be a sign of just how bad I am at this. We'll see if I'm right or not. Warhammer Fantasy Battles Dwarf said the AP intensity on research mission can be tough. I agree. We already talked about the water counting is difficult terrain. Dwarf, you said Elijah is also generically good at killing ruthless, scary models. He singularly handily beat my dog crew. Blade Rush can do work. I agree. So that's the other thing you'll notice. There's some interesting counter picks in here. I've got some nice ruthless models. So let's take a quick look at Borgman, because he's one that I am not super familiar with. So we've got the Blade Rush, which is super handy. I like the Promise to Flame. Of course, keeping him in the center helps me with the Promise to Flame, because my plan is to have that center littered with pyre markers. So if Elijah can stay in that center, he should hopefully be able to take advantage of that Promise to Flame without too much difficulty. The Ruthless was the big pick, and it's the same thing with the Ruthless on the Mech Rider. I play Seamus, and he didn't go this direction, which doesn't is not a bad thing, but I like a terrifying saturated Seamus list where basically everything's terrifying. In this case, he's got a little bit of a willpower overload. So he's got, Seamus and Sibel are both terrifying, but the Dandy and the Doxies all have the manipulative traits. So me having two hard hitters that are ruthless is going to be good. But let's look at Borgman's back of his card real quick. So obviously the Greatsword makes him a hard hitter. I like the Emulate to do some damage. The big thing though that I like, and the reason I want to keep him in the center near the captain and near Karis is because of the heal. He reads, I gotta be honest with you, when Jeremy sent me this list, I went through it, and I knew some of the models and stuff. I have a familiarity with almost all the models, but you don't know them until you play them. But I went through this list, and I remember messaging back to Jeremy. I'm like, God, Arcanists are so good. I mean, like, I've got so much power in this list. And of course, I'm used to playing Seamus, so I read the Seamus list, and I'm like, oh, this list is terrible compared to what the Arcanists are putting together. Granted, I'm only taking 2 stones to his 6, but I got a Soulstone Miner, so what does that matter? So yeah, I'm anxious to see what Borgman does. He's the one I'm least comfortable with. But he seems relatively straightforward. So I'll be anxious, Dwarf, to see what happens there. Let's see. Looking at chat here a little bit more. Yeah, Dice Man has a good point. You may want to consider what options each deployment zone gives Seamus for his teleport. I'll be honest with you, there's so much freaking blocking terrain on this board that he's going to be able to back alley anywhere. I don't think there's a bad place for Seamus on here. So it to be honest with you, after I kind of noticed that, that wasn't a consideration for me. But Dice Man, to your point, it's something you should think about when you're going up against Seamus. So I don't think that's a bad pick. For those of you that are watching on YouTube, the people that are chatting here, they're doing that through Twitch. So if you'd like to come over and chat, feel free to bounce over to Twitch, and you can just drop into the chat, and you can join us. All right, so let's talk a little bit more. I want to look at Jim's list a little bit. Here's what I don't like. I don't like the fact that Jim has played Rezzers before. So I said he mains Arcanists, but he has played Rezzers. He's played Seamus. I've played against his Seamus. It was a while ago, but I've seen him play Seamus. So I don't like the fact that I am not familiar with my crew. He is far more familiar with his crew. I think I have a bit of an advantage as far as understanding the other side of the table. I'm very familiar with all of the models he picked. I have played all of those models several times. So I feel good about what I'm up against and understanding what I'm up against. I don't know how much Jim has played Karis. So I might have a little bit of an advantage there. And hopefully those two things balance out where, he's a bit more familiar with Seamus than I am with Karis, but I'm far more familiar with Seamus, I think, than he is with what he's facing with Karis. But that said, I'm using models he uses all the time because he plays Colette a lot. So he's very familiar with Carlos. He's very familiar with the Mech Rider. He knows what the captain does, and obviously he's an Arcanist, so he's played Soulstone Miners. So I might be overestimating that a bit. Let's see. I've talked about game plan. I'm trying to think of what else I wanted to wanted to talk about. Do I have a feel? So this is from that is a long name, my friend, but the question was do I have a feel on what schemes he's taking for the counter? Yeah, so I think the Gravedigger tips off a little bit of a research mission, but not exactly, because the other thing the Gravedigger can do is that Gravedigger can feed the corpse marker that Seamus needs. I personally like the Bone Pile. better than the Gravedigger. I tried to make Gravedigger work, and I think Gravedigger is good. I think Bone Piles are better. And in most Reser lists, I come down to whether I'm going to bring a Bone Pile or I'm going to bring the Gravedigger. I like the Bone Pile better, and it still gives me the Corpse Marker I need, and I get the added heal as well. In your head, in theory, foe, you think, oh, I'll just keep the Gravedigger near Seamus. He'll always have, he'll litter the field with Corpse Markers. That way, when Seamus does his bonus action, he'll be able to pick up those Corpse Markers with no problem, and he'll be shooting things off the board. As is typical, that is not how it plays out. Your Gravedigger can't keep up with Seamus. 2, your Gravedigger is paper, very easy to take out. So if he is anywhere near the action, he's going to be wiped out. He's relatively fast with his bonus, but because his bonus allows him to drop the Corpse Marker, and then he gets to push towards it. The Gravedigger is going to be a target of opportunity for me. He can be a decent scheme runner. Maybe he's thinking of running it. Maybe he's not thinking of that. Maybe he's thinking of using it as a runner to get a flanking ley line. I don't know. So what else? I think he might go for Assassinate. And that's why I want to keep Borgman and the captain near her, because when you look at punch power, I anticipate Sybil's going to come up the center. She's a tar pit model. I like Sybil better than a lot of other Reser players do, but I don't think she's incredible. There's some Reser players that think she's phenomenal. She's not. She's good. She's good in Red Chapel. She's terrible anywhere else. You would never pay the tax on her. But if I was bringing this list, I would basically have Sybil and the Doxies trying to control the center and tar pit up the center. My hope is that with Borgman and the ability to get plus flips at whim with Karis, because I can use those plus flips for terrifying, I feel good about being able to take her down if she were to come in. I mean, she can't handle Karis, the captain, and Borgman, right? The other thing you got to watch out for is the Carrion. Now, I don't anticipate he's going to use the Carrion to carry the stone. So the Carrion is really his only other offensive piece outside of Seamus. Because Sybil is fine. She's not that hard of a hitter. She's more of a tank than a hitter. But the Carrion, I am very confident that I can take down relatively quickly, again, with that trio. Quite frankly, I think if the Carrion were to go after the Mech Rider or go after Carlos, I think that either of them can out-survive the Carrion Emissary. So I like my chances there. So I don't know. I don't know. It's really hard to see what it plays out. So back to what the original question was, which is, what do I think he's going to go with? So that's why I think he's going to go Assassinate. I don't know. It's tough. So if he goes Assassinate, that means that I'm going to have Seamus in my face. Maybe he decides Captain is what he's going to want to go for. You know what, if need be, I'm going to get into that concealing terrain. I mean, there's concealing terrain relatively close to the center of that board, and I just might live there to really discourage Seamus from coming in. We'll see. I'm not sure. He might go... Oh, God, that's really tough. I'm bad at this as far as being able to pick counter schemes. I'm still at the level of play where I'm too focused on my own schemes and scoring that usually it's not until turn 3 that I start figuring out how I'm going to counter it. Yeah. So those are my thoughts. Any other questions? Oh, Blue, be nice. Jim is a better player than me. Jim has beaten me more than once. Jim is a good player. But Jim is not a top table player, neither am I. So you guys get to see a couple of what some would consider scrubs, I guess, battling it out on Sunday. Yeah, I know. We know. Trust me, Chris. We know your sense of humor. Any other last questions? Are the docks blocking? Yes, the docks will be blocking. They'll be climbable, 1-inch climbable as well. Am I worried about the early damage output from Seamus with so few stones? Well, I mean, as far as the stones are concerned, I'm only really looking at Carlos, Karras, and Borgman, right? And I've got Borgman in there with the captain. I plan on him being at that -2 aura for projectiles with the captain. My hope is that Trinity is going to dissuade Jim from putting Seamus into me. Maybe it won't. I'm a little bit more concerned about maybe Seamus. You know what? I think, the captain might be a hench too. I think he is a hench, now that you say it. Yeah, he sure is. Captain is a hench, so yeah. So that's very possible. I mean, maybe his move is going to be to go right into my trio there and try to take down one of them. And it's possible he can. I mean, you figure. So I don't know, man. That's a pretty big bubble the captain has there. That's a 6-inch bubble. With that 3-inch order on middle of the storm. The other part of that too is the wind barrier. I mean, the wind barrier gives me concealing too, right? So yeah, maybe the captain's the target. I don't know. We'll have to think about it. Cody, what'd you have to say? Did you know that Karras can shoot the Soulstar Miner and give it burning, and you'll need that burning for later? Why would I need the burning on the Soulstone Miner? This is me not knowing what I'm talking about when it comes to this. So you'll have to help me out there, Cody. I'm not quite sure why that would be good to put burning on. Why is burning on a Soulstone Miner good? What's the benefit of that? Okay. All right. Thanks, Cody. Super helpful. Maybe there's a synergy there, or just Cody's being a jerk. Yeah, Dwarf. I gotta be honest with you. I can't. In a Seamus list, I think that the value of those wind barriers goes way up. The target number on them is low. Well, guys, if you're gonna say you're with Cody. Oh, Secret Tech. Okay, now I see who's saying it. Nathan. Thank you, Nathan. You and Cody are both super helpful. I need all the help I can get, so it's a good thing you two are here. Thanks a ton. All right, but back to the wind barriers. So, see the captain used a lot, and the wind barriers can be a factor. I think within a Seamus lift, they've become a bigger factor. And again, dissuading Seamus. I mean, honestly, if I can get Seamus to spend 2, even 3 turns trying to take out Carlos or trying to take out the Mech Rider, I'll count that as a win. Or maybe even goes after the Soulstone Miner. I don't know. It'll be interesting. I think the key for me. So let's go back to game state, right? So one of the questions that I always ask on the on these streams is before the game starts, I like to ask the player, what does the board need to look like at the end of turn 2 for you to feel good about where you are? And I think that is a good exercise for everybody. Not hokey dokey visualization, like actually winning a game visualization. I mean, part of what you have to do is you have to visualize what the win looks like, and not in a spiritual way, but in a very tactical way. You've heard guests on the show talk about this. So at the end of turn 2, what do I think the board state needs to be? Ideally, I need to have only lost 1 model by the end of turn 2. I think it's possible that we'll lose no models, or I'll lose 5 models by the end of turn 2. But in that win state, I've lost 1 model. I've got 3 Karras, Borgman, and the captain controlling the center of the board, and The only thing there is either none of Jim's models or corpse markers because I've killed whatever went into me. I then, at the end of turn 2, have got at least my 3rd lodestone ready to go. So I've got, hopefully I've already marked the one near my deployment. I've marked the middle, and hopefully he hasn't marked the middle. I've stopped that, I'm hoping. And now I've got that lodestone either en route or well to the 3rd marker by the end of turn 2. I want none of his models in the middle. I want him struggling with target priority, and I feel really, really good if the Carrion Emissary is dead by the end of turn 2, or at least down to 1 or 2 wounds. So that's what I think my end of turn 2 game state is. Let's see, Blue, you got a question. Do you ever play yourself? Cody does it all the time, so I've heard. I make fun of Cody doing that all the time. And it is a great, great technique. It is part of the reason Cody does as well as he does in a competitive environment. Now, to answer your question, Chris, what I will do, and I will be doing before Sunday, is I will be practicing turn 1. So, from my understanding, Cody will play an entire head-to-head match where he'll have 2 different crews, and he'll go from one side of the table to the other side of the table and just play it out. And I think that is a good practice. My version of that is deployment and first turn, because where I tend to make most of my mistakes early is at deployment and in activation order, turn 1. I have more than once gotten myself stuck in my own deployment zone, ended up with models not where I wanted them to be because I didn't practice that. So that is something, Chris, that I will do. Let's see, another question here. If you find time, can you make a video of that board from the player's perspective? Would love to see more of the buildings and mountain heights. Actually, what you can do, Perez, is you can go to the Third Floor Wars Facebook page and scroll down the posts. I've got several pictures of this board from players' perspectives so that you can see the height of the buildings, how the bridge works. You can also see a better layout of the trees, but you can also get a sense of how tall those mountains are. Most of those rocks, the big rocks that's in the center and the ones that's in the top center, those are going to be height 5 at the very highest, but they have step up. So there's going to be parts of them will be height 3, part will be height 2, and part will be height 1, and they'll all be climbable. It's very interesting terrain. This is Monster Fight Club is the terrain that I'm using here. And the only thing that I've added to that is the battle systems. That's where the bridge, the water feature, and the dock house that comes from battle systems. But it's sweet terrain. Huge fan. I got on the Kickstarter for the Monster Fight Club, and very happy with it's all pre-painted. Not cheap, but for me, well worth it. The quality is excellent. It's a very sturdy plastic. The paint jobs on it are fine for terrain. They went ahead and did a city Kickstarter for city buildings. Very clever, but very expensive. And I bought into that too, because I was so impressed with this terrain. I bought a couple buildings of their city terrain. So, but yeah, when you see it on Sunday, you'll see just how pretty this terrain is. And like I said, it's not cheap, but for me, it was well worth the money. Let's see. So the big question I'm having is which of his... Yeah, the question Dwarf is asking is which of his models are going to carry the lodestone. And I think that's a legit question. It shouldn't be Seamus, right? Because that's going to F up his back alley. If I were him, I wouldn't put it on my emissary because that means he can't fly. But he does have a decent move, so maybe that's the way to go. So that really puts him down to the Gravedigger with a Doxy. So I think we're going to see maybe a Doxy and a Gravedigger working together because the two of them together can be very, very fast. But I hope he doesn't do that near the Mech Rider because with the Ruthless, I'll take out that Doxy with no trouble. I think that I have enough threats on the sides that I'll be okay. Yeah, I think the doxies are going to be a target priority. Another question here. Where did I see it? Knowing what I know about Seamus, which models do you think Jim should target of yours? None of them. Jim should just concede. I think the Mech Rider and Carlos are 2 target priorities. The problem is Carlos is pretty beefy. The Mech Rider's no joke either. I think his juiciest targets I'm going to have in the center of the board. And hopefully the 3 of them being together being such a threat. I don't know if Jim can put together the same level of threat that I can at different points in the board. I think I can put a tremendous amount of threat into the center, which is how I hope to control it. Coupled with some defensive tech like the Pyre Markers. And I don't know. I mean, he could double up on one of the flanks. Maybe, have the Carrion and Seamus go after, either Carlos or go after the Mech Rider. But see, both of them are fast enough that if that's what he does, I can make it expensive for him. I can make it very AP intensive for him to do that. I mean, if he moves on the Mech Rider with 2 big models like Seamus and the Carrion Emissary, or if he moves on Carlos with the 2 of them, then I will just play keep away. I will run them and I will not engage, and I will hope that I just waste 2-3 turns of his life. And I'm willing to trade 2 or 3 turns of Carlos or 2 or 3 turns of the Mech Rider for 2 or 3 turns of Seamus, or even better, Seamus and the Carrion. So we'll see how that goes. I think, how do I want to put this? I think equally skilled players that play to mid to high level, which is not what you're going to see on Sunday. Jim and I are not equally skilled, and neither he and I play at a high level. But looking just at these lists, I favor the Karis list over the Seamus list. I think the Karis list has a better counter to the Seamus list. I think the Karis list has some built-in advantages as far as the pool is concerned. And I like the Karis list because I think it brings more threats. I lose this game because Jim outplays me, in my opinion, which is very, very possible. Blue, you're asking what schemes did I say I was taking? I'm taking Leave Your Mark, and I'm taking Spread Them Out. I am not taking Catch and Release. Nope. That is something that Jim potentially could catch. I could see that. But like I explained earlier, the reason I'm doing the Spread Them Out and Leave Your Mark is because that's where I plan to be on the board anyway, so I might as well score while I'm there. I think that Jim is going to take. Definitely feel pretty good about him taking Research Mission, and I feel fairly good about him taking Assassinate. And I apologize, the graphic on the screen doesn't show the 5th scheme of Assassinate because I'm an idiot. But yeah, that's where we are. So before I wrap up, I want to take any other last questions from those watching on Twitch. We've had a good 40 minutes. Is there anything you're wondering about? How about some predictions? I'd love to hear the people in the chat predictions. I'd like to hear who do you think is going to win and what the final score is. I think it's going to be a tight game. At least I hope it is. I hope that Jim and I are relatively fast players, even though we're not super familiar with the crews. So I hope that we can finish it up in 2-3 hours. It's going to take longer than 2 hours. But I like that prediction. There's a 6-4 to Karis. I like that. 4-3 to Karis. Cody, probably right. 8-0 Jim. I think that's a legitimate, very possible that I won't even score 1 on ley lines, because that first point, Cody, is tough as hell on ley lines. Easy to deny too. Oh, guys, I need some more people to pick Seamus. 4-3 Karis. I appreciate it though. You guys grossly overestimate me. You can ask Cody. I'm terrible at this game. Cody will back me up. I do think it's going to be a tight game, though. You know what's funny? You say that about Paris. You say that about the minor. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the minor. To be honest with you, what I've been half considering of doing with the minor is harassing the shit out of them early, finding maybe like something like the Gravedigger or something, and just using the Soulstone Miner to harass like the Gravedigger, if that's what, if he ends up going flanking on that, and then using him to help finish out hopefully a second point on spread him out. But I haven't completely figured out what I'm going to do with that miner. I think he's going to be my game time decision, what I end up doing with that miner. But it's a legitimate thing, to wonder what I'm going to do with that. Yeah, you know what, Blue? It's a good point. He's a catch and release bluff. I don't think that's a bad call either. I think Jim. Here's what I think Jim's thinking. Jim is definitely thinking I'm going to take research mission. I think that he's 80% sure I'm going to take research mission, which I'm fine with him thinking that. It's not a huge bad thing on his part if he does think that. But I think he'll struggle with me figuring out my second scheme until I declare it. Yeah. I would like to win the game. I'm not going to lie to you. I was joking with Ray, and you'll hear it in the pregame interview that we recorded. I am really in a perfect situation as far as the Craig, the host of Tabletop Talk brand. So let's say that I win this game. Let's say that I, totally win this game, and even let's pretend I win by like 2-3 points, right? Then I can go right onto the show and say, look, I told all of you Arcanists are so good that a person who's bad at the game can pick up an Arcanist crew, have never played them before, and can win the game. So I'll be completely on brand if I win this game. What's cool also is that I will also be on brand if I lose this game, because I can say, all of you think I was kidding about how bad I am? I can't even win with Arcanists, and Arcanists are really, really good. So we'll see if that see how that plays out. This game, though, like I said, guys and gals, this game is for the patrons. We are stunned that we have over 100 patrons, that we have been able to. I think in 2020 we might break even on Third Floor Wars. Because of the patrons. Last year in 2019, I spent a lot of money to get us up and running, as far as equipment and stuff like that. And because of our patrons, because of our advertisers, I think we'll break even in 2020, which is pretty awesome. I look at the number of patrons that we have, and I look at other patrons, Patreons out there, and it's really stunning. So you guys out there that have been supporting us via Patreon, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing, and it makes a difference. It's why we can do what we do, and why we enjoy it so much. Yes, Blue, I have better beer in my house, but I'm not gonna lie to you. Sometimes I like a Corona Light, you jerk. If I can get your ass to the campsite, I'll show you good beer, because I always bring good beer to the campsite. And hopefully you said you might come out camping in October. I hope to see you, man. Though I tend to drink liquor at the campsite, which makes it a mess. But I am looking forward to the camping trip, though. Yeah, right. Boy, no kidding. Breaking even in 2020, that's a win. That is very much. I mean, the one thing going for Third Floor Wars is I control the cost, right? I'm the one that banks Third Floor Wars, and I can decide how much I spend or don't spend on it. So I can control that. We didn't have a whole lot of equipment when Third Floor Wars started, and we've built up a pretty nice little studio and technology. Excuse me, which I think allows us to have some pretty good quality, or hopefully you guys think we have good quality, both in our videos as well as the podcast and how it sounds. So, yeah, so that's it, guys. We're coming up on 50 minutes. Any last questions before I bounce? I'm going to be spending all day tomorrow getting Cody and Doug set up as far as doing commentating, which, by the way, I can't wait for. So what I'm really excited about for this stream is that you're going to not only hear the table talk, so, you know, me, Jim, and Ray talking, but it's kind of like what we did with Weird. We've got Doug and Cody are going to be piped in with live commentary. So we're going to be able to hear play-by-plays from Cody and from Doug to kind of get a feel for what their take on what's happening. Doug is a great guy. Cody knows what he's talking about and is also a great guy. So I'm really excited about, I think, adding a whole new level to the quality of the Battle Report streams that we have. So that's very, very exciting. But I really hope to see all of you on Sunday. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. If you can't be there live, we'll, of course, have the recordings available on Twitch for, I think they have it for 2 weeks. You can watch it, but we'll have the video there the whole time for YouTube. So you guys that are on different coasts that are not watching this live and can't watch that live, you'll be enjoying that. But anyway, guys and gals, thanks again. Take care. And for those